Failure in life does not determine your future. A failed certification as a physiotherapist led my guest to a new career, a decision he has never regretted. 2 masters behind, favour all round, he stands tall as a director in an organization. Good morning, Kenny Ajayi. Thank you for coming on the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on the show.
It's really a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much.
I'm just going to go straight into my first question. You're a twin, right?
I am a twin, yes.
Is it true that thing that they say about twins, that you can sort of like feel what your twin brother is feeling at times, and you have like this sixth sense of knowing what's going on with him?
Well, I'm not really sure if it's a sixth sense,
okay.
But I do know that I'm very close with my twin brother,
okay.
and we relate at a certain level that I guess much deeper than brothers or sisters or siblings would.
Normally siblings would do.
Yes.
Okay. And you're identical twins.
We are identical twins.
And I must say that I have a few times gone up to him and thought it was you, but I think he's used to it, so he just goes, oh yeah, don't worry, you thought I was, you know. Yeah. What was that like when you were growing up as children?
Very hilarious, really.
I can imagine.
Many people, I think most of the people we know, with the exception of a handful, often mistake us. So I think we're used to a lifetime of being mistaken, and we've just settled into the reality of there are 2 of us walking around the earth.
which is a good way of accepting it.
Yes.
But your wives don't mistake you, do they?
No.
Okay, good.
Our wives don't, and our parents don't, and our siblings don't.
Right? Yes. Okay. Yeah. Is there anything that you have that is slightly different? Because at times I look at sometimes they're like, okay, maybe one's eyes is a little bit thinner than the other. Is there anything that you can use to identify?
There are a few. Some of them I won't say on air.
Okay, that's fine. We'll leave it out there.
But some of them are very obvious. I'm slightly taller than my brother.
Okay, that's a good one for me to know.
And also I'm slightly bigger than him.
Okay.
So,
are you the bigger twin then? Because there's usually one that comes out slightly bigger.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot we've discovered today. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm just going to ask, what's your current role at the moment? You're a director.
Yes, so I'm a program director for within the NHS.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you do as a director? I know you said it's innovation, patient safety and innovation.
That's right.
I'm a bit curious, really, what does that entail?
So really, one of the things about the NHS is that the health service is the best healthcare system of its kind in the entire world.
Okay, really?
Yes, it is. And that's been validated by a global organization.
That's good to know, you know, because at times we don't appreciate what we have, isn't it?
That's true.
Yeah, we just keep condemning, so unless we hear about, you know, what outsiders think.
That's exactly true. And one of the things about the NHS, however, is that you can have the best and most innovative practices in terms of patient care and effectiveness and good outcomes. On the one hand, sitting 5 miles away from the worst, relatively worst practices. And so one of my jobs really is to find out what the best is, not just within the NHS, but also across the world, and make sure that becomes some standard.
Yeah.
So that's innovation and best practice.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
It sounds like a very interesting role.
Thank you.
But you've not always been along this line in terms of your career, really.
No, I haven't.
Give us a bit of a background in terms of what you are and your career journey, really.
Right. So briefly, I trained originally as a physiotherapist.
Okay.
And after a short while of practice, I then went...
Oh, so you did practice?
I did practice for a short while.
Right, okay.
I practiced in Nigeria for a short while. And then when I emigrated to the UK, I had problems with registration. Perhaps I can go into that further on. But I couldn't get registration in the UK. And that was a bit of a blow for me. So I had to retrace my career path and went back into to studied a slightly different subject, really. So that took me into human factors and ergonomics.
Okay. So in terms of your degree as a physiotherapist, so when there's a registration that is required.
Correct.
So you actually didn't pass that?
I didn't.
All right, okay.
I didn't.
How did you feel about that?
I was in my early 20s then.
Okay.
It was very devastating. To sum it up, I felt like I'd spent 4 years of my life in university, and that equated to nothing. Because it was very deflating to come from a different country.
Exactly, yes.
And into a new system.
Yes.
And what really made it more devastating for me was there were some of my colleagues who a few months before me had entered the UK system and didn't have any troubles with registration.
Right.
Just about the time I was getting into the system changed and became more rigorous, and it meant that the automatic registration I would have enjoyed did not happen. And on reflection, there's a part of me that thinks that maybe I was a victim of the changing circumstances, but I think everything worked well in the end, really.
Okay. So in terms of that now, in hindsight of where you are now and you know, I think at times, you know, we have a certain ideology of where we feel that we should be going.
Yeah.
But God's ways and His plans are not necessarily the way that we feel.
Correct.
That we, you
Correct,
know,
yes.
the path that we should be going. And a typical example is me being on this show. If anybody had told me a few years ago that I would be doing anything like this, I'd be like, it's really not connected in any way. But that's a story for another day.
That's true.
Okay. So in terms of your journey and your career, tell us a bit about your relationship with God.
Right.
When that happened to you, were you a Christian then?
Right.
Or were you just, you know, tell us a bit about that.
Yes, I was a Christian at the time that happened.
Okay.
I had no inkling it was going to happen, and I was very devastated. It was a low point in my life and in my career. But over the years, I've learned this one thing, that when things happen, two things really: God is never at fault, and secondly, I may not always see the reason why something is happening the way it's happening.
Correct, yes.
But even if it was my fault, God always has a way of turning things around and producing a better outcome. And a number of years down the line, or a number of decades down the line, I can honestly say that I'm really thankful things happened the way they happened. I have no doubt that if I'd carried on in the career path I was on, I would definitely not be at the level I am now. I won't have done the exciting things I've been able to do in my career.
That's right.
And I definitely won't be the status I am now, and definitely won't be earning what I'm earning now. So I'm thankful things happened the way they happened.
It's a way. It really, His ways are not our ways, isn't it? It just because He sees the end from the beginning. So
Absolutely.
He just makes everything beautiful in His time. So going on to when you then did, what career did you then go to when you couldn't get your registration?
So I went originally into the civil service for about 3 years, and it wasn't a very exciting job.
What was the job, if you don't mind me asking?
The job was as an admin assistant.
Okay.
I think I needed at the time something to really just get me going. And I did that for 3 years, but there was no prospect.
You didn't get a promotion. You were due a promotion then, weren't you?
That's correct.
And what happened?
I applied for a promotion, and I needed 5 levels to. The requirement was to get that promotion, you needed 5 levels. Okay. Of course, at that point in time, I had a degree, so I already was overqualified.
Exactly.
But it was devastating when the reason why my boss said I didn't qualify for this promotion was I couldn't communicate in English. And to be honest with you, for a guy coming from Africa, that was a blow, because my first sense was my parents paid money to send me to school.
Go to graduate for that matter, not O-level or anything we've said, you know.
Yeah.
And then a physiotherapist, not just, you know, a graduate in, you know, any just any field.
So,
and after, so you've had that registration blow, then you've now got this blow again. And so what next after that? How then do you just pick yourself up to keep going on?
I mean, to be honest, So I had to appeal, and it was a challenging process. I had a 1-month period to appeal. Cut a long story short, I just couldn't get myself to really get down into it and appeal. And I remember the turning point was when one day I just thought, this has to stop. So I took some time out to really pray about it over a protracted period. And at the end of that, I just found that I had the right word, the right frame of mind, and God just helped me to be able to put a case together, made an appeal, and the appeal was successful.
Okay.
So that was a good
So did
outcome.
you eventually get that promotion?
I eventually got the promotion.
All right. Okay. Okay. So going on after that,
Yes.
where then did you go in your career?
So I then went into, my parents then kindly agreed to sponsor me to do a master's program full-time.
Okay.
So I did a master's program full-time in ergonomics and human factors.
Okay. What does that mean? What does economics and human
So-
factors mean? Just for our viewers.
Right. So ergonomics and human factors is a science that is about the design of products, processes, and systems that human beings use.
Okay.
It uses the limitations and capabilities of people to design products that are comfortable to use and that are user-friendly.
Okay. Hold that thought for a minute. We're going to have a quick break now, and we'll see you back shortly.